Now, at 9:52, let's talk boxing. Middleweight Hamza Sheir produced a stunning performance, defeating Liam Williams in one round on Saturday night in London. The Brit extended his unbeaten record to 19 fights, dropping Williams twice, thanks to brilliant, blistering speed.
Yeah.
The middleweight delivered on his promise to make a statement by stopping Williams, a former world title challenger. Join us now for more on this. Head of Queensberry Promotions and Sheir's promoter, Frank Warren. Frank, a very good morning.
Morning, Frank.
Morning, Ali. Morning, Alan. Very good morning to you.
Frank, you got to be delighted with that, eh? The boys were watching. I didn't see it. They tell me it was blistering. He was so quick.
He is. I mean, he's a bit of a... He's become a star, and I think Phil, he's going to be one of the big names in the sport over the next few years. You know, we've had faith in him from the beginning, and we've sort of developed his career, and he's done the business in the ring. You know, good style. But his last few performances have been blistering. I mean, he reminds me of Tommy Hearns. He's very tall, free. He's got a tremendous jab, and it's not just like he fills you with a jab. I mean, he can take your head off with a jab.
Frank,
I've got to say, by the way, Hearns is the greatest jab I think I've ever seen. Hearns, I mean, absolutely. So that's high praise indeed. Frank, I was going to ask you, mate. See, in terms of boxers, do you ever see late developers come through? Obviously, you see the young guys, you say, this guy's going to make it right to the top, and you can see the talent there in some of the youth. But do you ever get guys, like in other sports, maybe develop a little bit later in their early 20s, for example?
Yeah, I mean, it depends really, Ali, when they turn professional. You know, I mean, there are youngsters. Now, Ricky Hatton was very young. Naz was young when they turned pro. So was Hamza. But there are guys who've done it later on in their career, like Joe Cordina's. He's 30 years of age when he won the title. I mean, you know, when you go back to Scotland, Ken Buchanan and Jim Watt, they were quite late develops. Yeah. But
he was the first to win a world title away from in South America, wasn't he? Ken Buchanan, something like that.
Well, Roberto Duran hit him with the infamous low blow, didn't he? Hit him below the belt, hit Ken Buchanan with a low blow, if I recall.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Bit before my time, but that's true. But you know, it depends on what, you know, as I say, when they turn pro. But what I like, you know, when we're working with fighters, you get a lot of guys come off what they call the podium squad, which are boxers who are picked to box for their respective country, like England, Scotland, Ireland, or Wales. And you get the ABA champions and so forth. And you get the guys who get overlooked for the Olympics. And, you know, like that happened with Joe Calzaghe, that happened with Naz, quite a few.
Calzaghe, unbelievable.
And you look at, and I think with Hamza, it's a similar sort of situation. He's a guy that, you know, was very, you know, he's respected as an amateur, but wasn't considered to be one of the top ones. And the pros, becoming a pro, he's come on in leaps and bounds. He works so hard at it as well. He goes off and trains in California. He's got a good trainer out there, Ricky Fuentes, and he's done a tremendous job with him.
Yeah, Frank, I know there's a lot of sort of bad blood going about and stuff like that at the moment in boxing and a bit of social media and people giving opinions. Carl Frotz joined Simon and Spencer for this week's edition of Talk Box, and they were talking during the show. They were discussing Tyson's recent social media post laying out his 5-fight plan. Before I just hear what they have to say, how is a big fella? You know, how's the cut? Is that a real nasty, Frank, or is that just something that happens in boxing and it's a matter of 6-8 weeks?
He'll be ready for the 17th. He'll be ready for that, and it'll take its course and it'll heal. And, you know, there's nothing unusual in boxing for fights to be postponed. The fight that took place on Saturday between Williams and Hamza, that had been postponed from last November because Hamza busted his hand up.
Yeah.
The fight the week before, which was Aziz and Buatsi, that was postponed because Aziz got injured last year, so that was a postponement. It's nothing unusual in sparring. They're actually punching each other, so you will pick up injuries. It's unfortunate, and it's happened with Tyson. It happened with George Foreman. That happens in boxing. You know, funny thing. Cole Frampton was saying on Saturday he had 2 fights pull out. One was because the opponent fell over in the shower on the day of the show and cuts.
But the problem is Frank, as you know better than Ali and I, he can spar, he can keep fit, but he can't spar. He can't take a punch on that for a while.
No, he won't do that. He's fit as a butcher's dog at the moment. He's worked very hard, and he did work hard in training camp. And now obviously that will stand him in some good stead, because he'll take a couple of weeks off, and then because he was more or less peaking, and he's now got to sort of wind himself down to get a bit, and then start working again to get himself up to be in peak condition for the 7th. It'll be okay. It'll be okay.
And these people who say he doesn't want to fight Usyk's a coward, that's just ridiculous. How can they call him a coward?
Madness.
Ridiculous.
This is the fellow that went to Germany to fight for the world title against Klitschko. Went out to fight a guy who was undefeated for 6 years in Deontay Wilder. 6 years reigning as a heavyweight champion, the hardest punching heavyweight recorded, and went to Ring not once, but went out there and fought him 3 times there. I mean, do me a favour. It's pathetic, and professional fighters should know better.
Frank, you're really confident. I'm reading this morning, to quote you, and I hope it is a quote, talking about Tyson. He's a master of taking advantage of any weakness, and you fancy him really, really strongly against Alexander Usyk, who a lot of people, myself included, might think he will be, without doubt, in my opinion, his most dangerous opponent to date.
I do think that he'll beat him. I think that, I think Tyson's the best heavyweight on the planet. His last fight against Ngannou, he wasn't at his best, but he came through and won the fight. And it was a fight that in some ways, it was going into the unknown, that everybody thought it was going to be a walkover. And I remember being on your show telling you at the time, I don't think it would be a walkover, because the guy, he's not a keyboard warrior. He's not a YouTuber. He's a proper
boxer,
fighter, and he fights for the UFC. He was a big puncher, and that he's a competitor, so he's going to come to fight. What surprised me was that he actually could box a bit, but Tyson, he got over that surprise. He went on the floor, he got up because he has got a good chin, and got back into the fight, and done what you do. You had an off night. Win a fight when you have an off night. That's a good thing. You haven't got beaten.
Yeah. Frank, listen, I've got to break now, but I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Frank.
And we'll speak later. Thank you, Frank.
All the best.
Frank Warren there you go, straight from the horse's mouth. So he will be back.